They poured ice water on sleeping homeless girl for fun. Unaware the Mafia boss was her father searching for her, I should have known that sleeping under the bridge on 7th Street would eventually get me killed. I just didn't expect it to happen like this. The shock of ice water hit me like 1,000 needles, piercing my skin all at once, stealing the breath from my lungs and jolting me awake with a violence that made my heart slam against my ribs. My eyes flew open to see 3 silhouettes standing over me, their laughter cutting through the pre-dawn darkness like broken glass. "Look at her! She's awake now!" one of them shouted, his voice thick with cruel amusement. I gasped, my body convulsing from the cold that seeped through my worn jacket and thin blanket. The cardboard I'd been sleeping on was now soaked, useless. My teeth began to chatter uncontrollably as I tried to scramble backward, my hands slipping on the wet concrete. "What's wrong, princess? Too cold for you?" One stepped closer, holding an empty bucket. "We were just trying to give you a bath. You smell like shit." Their laughter echoed under the bridge, a sound I'd grown used to in the 3 months since I'd lost everything. 3 months since my mother died. 3 months since her boyfriend threw me out, with nothing but the clothes on my back. 3 months of surviving on the streets of Chicago, invisible to everyone except those who wanted to hurt me. I was Sienna Walsh, 22 years old, and I'd become a ghost in my own city. "Please," I managed through chattering teeth, hating how weak my voice sounded. "Just leave me alone." "Aw," she said, "please." The tallest one mocked, crouching down to my level. His breath reeked of alcohol. "What do you think, boys? Should we leave her alone?" They moved closer, forming a semicircle that trapped me against the concrete barrier. My heart raced as I calculated my options. There were 3 of them, and I was already weak from days of barely eating. Running seemed impossible, but staying felt worse. That's when I heard it. The smooth purr of an expensive engine cutting through the early morning silence. Then another, and another. The sound of car doors opening and closing with that specific, solid thunk that only comes from vehicles worth more than most people's houses. The 3 men heard it too. Their laughter died instantly. "Shit," one whispered, his bravado evaporating. "We need to go. Now." But it was too late. Footsteps approached, measured, confident, terrifying in their steadiness. I could see the men's faces now in the growing light, and what I saw there made my blood run colder than the ice water. Fear, pure, absolute fear. "Gentlemen." The voice that spoke was low, controlled, and wrapped in an Italian accent that made the single word sound like a death sentence. It came from a man who stepped into view, flanked by 4 others in dark suits that probably cost more than everything I'd ever owned combined. But it was him I couldn't stop staring at. He was tall, over 6 feet, with broad shoulders that filled out his black suit jacket with an authority that needed no explanation. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. Sharp jawline, prominent nose, lips that looked cruel even in repose. But it was his eyes that paralyzed me. Dark, endless, and currently fixed on the men who had been tormenting me with an intensity that made the air itself feel dangerous. "I believe," he continued, his voice never rising above that terrifying calm, "that we have a problem." "Mr. Moretti," one of my attackers stammered, taking a step back. "We didn't know we were just—" "You were just?" The man Moretti tilted his head slightly, like a predator studying prey. "Please, finish your sentence. I'm fascinated to hear what possible explanation you have for assaulting a defenseless woman on my streets." His streets? I should have moved, should have taken the opportunity to run while their attention was elsewhere. But I couldn't. I was frozen, watching this scene unfold like something from a movie I'd accidentally wandered into. "It was just a joke, Mr. Moretti. We didn't mean a joke." Moretti's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the air. The men beside him moved almost imperceptibly, and suddenly I was very aware that they were all armed. "Marco," one of the suited men stepped forward. "Yes, sir. Take them to the warehouse. All 3. I'll deal with them later." The color drained from my attackers' faces. "Please, Mr. Moretti, we're sorry. It won't happen again." "No," Moretti agreed quietly. "It won't." His men moved with practiced efficiency, herding my former tormentors toward the black SUVs parked nearby. Their protests faded into whimpers, then silence as they were pushed into vehicles and driven away. And then it was just me and him. Moretti turned those dark eyes on me, and I felt the full weight of his attention like a physical force. He studied me for a long moment, taking in my soaked clothes, my makeshift bed, The way I was shivering violently in the morning cold and something flickered across his face. Something I couldn't name. "How long have you been out here?" His voice had changed, softer somehow, though no less commanding. I opened my mouth to answer, but my teeth were chattering too hard. The adrenaline that had kept me alert was fading, leaving only the bone-deep cold and exhaustion. Moretti moved then, shrugging out of his suit jacket with smooth, economic movements. Before I could protest, he was draping it over my shoulders. The fabric was warm from his body heat, and it smelled like expensive cologne and something darker, more dangerous. 3 months. I finally managed to whisper, pulling the jacket tighter around myself. "I've been here 3 months." His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Name, Sienna." The word came out before I could think better of it. "Sienna Walsh." Something happened when I said my last name. Moretti went completely still, his dark eyes widening just a fraction. His hand, which had been starting to pull away, froze in midair. He stared at me with an intensity that made my breath catch for an entirely different reason. "Walsh," he repeated, his accent making the name sound foreign and familiar all at once. "What was your mother's name?" The question caught me off guard. Catherine Walsh." "Why?" I never got to finish. Moretti's face had gone absolutely white. His hand shot out, gripping my chin with surprising gentleness, tilting my face up to catch the growing dawn light. He was studying me like a man seeing a ghost, his breathing suddenly ragged. "Dio mio," he whispered, his voice cracking in a way that made him sound almost human. "I've found you." And just like that, my world tilted on its axis. "What are you talking about?" I tried to pull away, but his hand was firm. "You don't know me. You don't... Your eyes," he interrupted, his thumb brushing my cheekbone with devastating tenderness. "You have your mother's eyes, Catherine's eyes." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was raw with an emotion I couldn't understand. "And mine. You have my eyes, Sienna." The words hung in the cold air between us, impossible and terrifying. 23 years, he continued, his dark gaze never leaving mine. "I've been searching for 23 years, and here you are, sleeping under a bridge in my city, while I've been..." He didn't finish. He didn't need to, because I understood what he was saying, even though my mind was screaming that it couldn't be true. This man, this dangerous, powerful man, who commanded fear with a single word, was claiming to be my father. I jerked away from his touch like it burned me, stumbling backward until the concrete barrier pressed against my spine. "You're insane," I said, my voice shaking. "My father is dead. He died before I was born. My mother told me." "Your mother lied." Moretti's voice cut through my words like a blade, sharp and absolute. But there was pain there too, bleeding through the edges. "She had to. I made her." The morning air felt too thin suddenly, too cold. I clutched his jacket tighter around my shoulders, hating that I needed its warmth, hating the way my body had stopped shivering the moment he'd touched me. "I don't believe you." But even as I said it, something inside me wavered. Because now that I was looking at him, really looking, I could see it. The shape of my eyes in his face. The same dark brown, almost black, that I'd inherited from nowhere according to my mother's blonde hair and blue eyes. The same stubborn set to the jaw. The same, no. I couldn't let myself go there. "You don't have to believe me." Moretti took a step forward, and I instinctively pressed harder against the barrier. He stopped immediately, something like hurt flashing across his features before his expression hardened into that mask of control again. "But you will come with me. You will get warm, get food, and then we will talk. These things are not negotiable. I'm not going anywhere with you." I straightened my spine, trying to find some dignity despite my soaked clothes and desperate situation. "I don't know who you are. Dante Moretti." He said his name like it should mean something, like it should make me fall to my knees. "I own this city. Every street, every building, every soul that walks these blocks after dark, they all answer to me. And if you are who I think you are, Sienna Walsh, then you are the one thing in this world that I would burn it all down to protect." The intensity in his voice made my breath catch. This wasn't the voice of a madman. This was something else. Something that sounded horribly, terrifyingly real. "My mother never mentioned you," I whispered. "Not once. She would have. She couldn't." Pain cracked through his composure again, raw and visceral. 23 years ago, I made a choice. I was building an empire, And I had enemies still have enemies who would have used you and Catherine to destroy me. So I sent her away, gave her money, a new identity, told her to disappear until it was safe. He paused, his hands curling into fists at his sides. I was supposed to come for you both, when you were 5, maybe 6, when things had settled. But Catherine disappeared completely, vanished. I've had men searching for decades. His dark eyes found mine again, and the raw emotion there made my chest tighten. And now I find my daughter sleeping under a bridge, like garbage, while I've been... His voice broke. Actually broke. For a moment, the powerful man in the expensive suit disappeared, and I saw someone else. Someone lost. Someone grieving. How did she die? He asked quietly. Catherine. How long ago? I shouldn't answer. Shouldn't give this stranger anything. But the words came anyway, pulled out by the genuine anguish in his voice. 3 months ago. Cancer. We had nothing, no insurance, no savings. Her boyfriend. I swallowed hard, pushing down the memories. He kicked me out the day after the funeral. Said I wasn't his problem anymore. Moretti's expression transformed. The grief vanished, replaced by something cold and lethal that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. His name, he said, each word precise and deadly. Give me his name. Why? So you can add him to whatever you did to those men who... I stopped, realization dawning. What are you going to do to them? Nothing they don't deserve. His tone suggested the conversation was over. The name Sienna. No. I lifted my chin, meeting his dangerous gaze with what little courage I had left. I don't know what you are, what you do, but I'm not going to be responsible for someone's death just because... You think he deserves mercy? Moretti moved closer, and this time I had nowhere to go. He wasn't touching me, but I could feel the heat of his body. Smell that intoxicating scent of expensive cologne and power. He threw a 22-year-old girl onto the streets with nothing. He let you suffer. He let you sleep here, in the cold, vulnerable to men who would. His jaw clenched so hard I could see the muscle jumping. If you are my daughter, he continued, his voice dropping to something that sounded like a promise and a threat. Then he hurt what belongs to me, and no one hurts what's mine and lives to speak of it. I should have been terrified. Everything about this man screamed danger. The way he spoke, the casual mention of violence, the absolute certainty that he could and would destroy anyone who crossed him. But instead, I felt something else entirely. Safe. For the first time in 3 months, maybe longer, I felt inexplicably, impossibly safe. And that terrified me more than anything else. I need proof, I heard myself say. Before I go anywhere with you, before I believe any of this, I need proof that you're really a DNA test. Moretti pulled out his phone with one hand, already typing. I'll have my doctor here within the hour. We'll do it now, and you'll have results by tonight. He looked up at me, and something in his expression softened. But you already know, don't you? You can feel it, the same way I felt it the moment you said your name. I wanted to deny it, wanted to call him crazy and run as far as my exhausted legs could carry me. But he was right. Some part of me, some deep, instinctive part recognized him, recognized the connection between us like a thread that had been there all along, invisible until this moment. I have a car waiting, Moretti said gently, gesturing toward the remaining black SUV. Whatever you decide about me, about us, you need warmth and food first. Please, Sienna, let me do this much. It was the please that broke me. This powerful, dangerous man who commanded fear with a look, saying please like I had any power at all. Just for the test, I agreed, my voice barely a whisper. Then I'm gone. Something that might have been relief flooded his features. Of course, whatever you wish. He offered me his hand. I stared at it for a long moment at the elegant fingers, the expensive watch, the faint scars across his knuckles that told stories of violence I probably didn't want to know. Then, against every instinct of self-preservation I possessed, I took it. His fingers closed around mine, warm and strong and gentle in a way that made my throat tight. I've got you, he murmured, helping me to my feet. I've got you now, figlia mia, my daughter. And as he led me toward the car, toward his world of darkness and power and dangerous promises, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything I thought I knew about my life had just shattered, and I had no idea if I was being saved or destroyed. The car was unlike anything I'd ever been inside. Soft leather seats that felt like butter against my damp clothes, climate control that wrapped around me like a warm embrace. tinted windows that made the world outside seem distant and unreal. And Dante Moretti sitting across from me, watching me with an intensity that made my skin prickle with awareness. "There are blankets in the compartment beside you," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "And water. When did you last eat?" I wanted to lie. Wanted to pretend I was fine, that I didn't need anything from him. But my body betrayed me, my stomach growling audibly at the mere mention of food. "Yesterday morning," I admitted quietly. "A woman at the shelter gave me half a sandwich." Something dangerous flickered across his face. He pressed a button, and a privacy screen lowered between us and the driver. "Marco," he said into the speaker. "Call ahead to the house. I want a full meal prepared. Soup first, something gentle. And have Elena draw a hot bath." He paused, his eyes never leaving mine. "We have a guest. Treat her accordingly. Treat her accordingly." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. "Where are we going?" I asked, pulling one of the impossibly soft blankets around my shoulders. I should have felt safer, warmer, but my nerves were stretched tight as wire. "My home. It's private, secure. The doctor will meet us there." Moretti leaned back slightly, giving me space, though his gaze remained fixed on me like I might disappear if he looked away. "You'll have your own room, your own bathroom, everything you need, and after the test, if you choose to leave." He trailed off, his jaw tightening. "If I choose to leave?" I prompted. "Then I'll have Marco drive you wherever you want to go, with enough money to start over properly. A hotel room for as long as you need. No strings attached." The words sounded like they were being dragged out of him. "But I'm hoping you'll stay. At least until we get the results. At least until we talk." There was something vulnerable in that last word. This man who commanded an empire, reduced to hoping I'd stay long enough to talk. 23 years, I said softly, processing everything he'd told me. "You said you've been searching for 23 years, but I'm only 22. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "I started searching before you were born. From the moment Catherine told me she was pregnant, I had men watching her, protecting her from a distance, until she vanished." The smile disappeared. She was good at hiding, better than I gave her credit for. She knew how to disappear in a way that even my resources couldn't track. For years, I found nothing. Not a trace. I thought maybe... His voice roughened. "I thought maybe you'd both died, and I just hadn't found the bodies." The raw pain in his admission made my chest ache. "She changed our names," I heard myself say. "We moved every few years. She never explained why, just said we needed fresh starts. I thought she was running from debt, or maybe an abusive ex. I never imagined she was protecting you." Moretti's voice was soft but certain. "From my world, from what I am, she loved you enough to give up everything, including me, to keep you safe." The car slowed, turning onto a private road lined with tall trees. Through the gaps, I caught glimpses of a massive iron gate, security cameras, men in suits stationed at intervals. "This is necessary," Moretti said, following my gaze. "I have enemies, Sienna. People who would hurt you just to hurt me. If you are my daughter..." "If..." I interrupted. "You seemed pretty certain back there." His dark eyes met mine, and the intensity there stole my breath. "I am certain, but you need to be certain too. You need to see the proof, understand what it means. Because once the world knows you're Dante Moretti's daughter..." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Everything changes. Your life will never be the same." The gate opened, and the house no. The mansion came into view. It was enormous. 3 stories of pale, stone and elegant architecture, with wings stretching out on either side. Manicured lawns, fountains, the kind of wealth I'd only seen in movies. This was his world. Power and money and violence wrapped in beauty. "It's too much," I whispered. "It's yours," he replied simply. "It's always been yours. I built this for a family I thought I'd lost." The car stopped in front of massive double doors. Before I could move, Moretti was out and opening my door himself, offering his hand again. I took it, letting him help me out. My legs were shaky from cold, from exhaustion, from the surreal nature of everything happening. The doors opened before we reached them. A woman in her 50s, elegant and sharp-eyed, stood waiting. "Elena," Moretti said. "This is Sienna. She's..." He paused, and I saw him struggle with the words. "She's mine. Treat her as such." Elena's eyes widened fractionally, the only sign of her surprise. Then she smiled, warm and genuine. Of course, sir. Miss Sienna, welcome. Home. I've prepared the East Wing suite, if you'll follow me. Go, Moretti said gently when I hesitated. Get warm, get clean. I'll have food brought up. The doctor will be here within the hour, and then we'll know for certain. I should have argued. Should have demanded answers now, not later. But my body was shutting down, the adrenaline finally deserting me completely. Okay, I agreed. Then, because some part of me needed to maintain control. But I'm not calling you father. Not until I see proof. Something painful flashed across his face, but he nodded. Understood. I followed Elena into the house, hyper-aware of Moretti's gaze on my back, until I turned a corner, and he disappeared from view. The suite Elena led me to was bigger than any apartment I'd ever lived in. A 4-poster bed dominated the room, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking gardens that probably cost more to maintain than most people made in a year. The bathroom is through there, Elena said, gesturing to an ornate door. I've drawn a bath. Take your time. There are clothes in the closet. Mr. Moretti keeps guest wardrobes in all the suites. I'll bring food up shortly. She paused at the door, her expression softening. He's a good man, Miss Sienna. Whatever you've heard, whatever you think you know about him, he's a good man, especially to those he loves. Then she was gone, leaving me alone in this impossible room. I walked to the bathroom in a daze. The tub was enormous, filled with steaming water and what looked like expensive bath oils. Fluffy towels were warming on a heated rack. Everything was perfect, luxurious, designed for comfort. I stripped off my filthy, damp clothes and sank into the water, letting the heat seep into my frozen bones. And finally, alone for the first time since waking to ice water under that bridge, I let myself process what had happened. Dante Moretti thought he was my father. More terrifying. I was starting to think he might be right. I closed my eyes, sinking deeper into the water, and tried not to think about what that meant, about what kind of blood might be running through my veins, about what kind of darkness I might have inherited from a man who could order violence with a single word, about why, despite everything, I hadn't felt truly safe in months until his hand closed around mine. The door to the suite opened. I heard voices, Elena's and someone else's. Then Moretti's voice, low and controlled but carrying clearly. The results came back faster than expected. I had them run preliminary markers from Catherine's medical records, a pause that felt like eternity. It's confirmed. She's mine. My hands gripped the edge of the tub, my heart hammering against my ribs. Find out everything about the last 22 years, Moretti continued, his voice turning cold. Everyone who hurt her, everyone who failed to help her, everyone who let my daughter sleep on the streets while I was looking for her. Another pause, darker this time. And then make them regret it. I didn't know how long I stayed in that tub, letting the water grow cold around me while my mind raced in circles. She's mine. 2 words that changed everything. Dante Moretti was my father. The preliminary tests confirmed it, and somehow, I'd known it before the science did. Known it in the way he'd looked at me, the way my body had recognized his presence like something fundamental and undeniable. I was the daughter of a man who casually ordered people to be hurt, or worse, with the same tone someone else might use to order coffee. The realization should have sent me running. Should have made me climb out that window and disappear back into the streets where at least the dangers were ones I understood. Instead, I found myself getting out of the tub, drying off with towels that cost more than I used to make in a week, and opening the closet Elena had mentioned. Inside were clothes with designer labels still attached, jeans in multiple sizes, soft sweaters, dresses that looked like they belonged on runways, everything tasteful, expensive, and somehow exactly my style. I chose the simplest option, dark jeans and a cream cashmere sweater that felt like a cloud against my skin. There were even undergarments, all in their original packaging, in a drawer organized by size. This wasn't a guest suite. This was something else. This was a room that had been waiting, prepared, hoping. The thought made my throat tight. I was towel drying my hair when I heard the knock. Soft, hesitant, nothing like I'd expect from the man who'd commanded those SUVs. Come in, I called, my voice steadier than I felt. The door opened, and Moretti stepped inside carrying a tray. He'd changed too, the suit replaced by dark slacks and a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms marked with more of those telling scars. He looked different like this, less untouchable, more human, more dangerous, because humanity made him real. Elena was bringing this up, he said, gesturing to the tray laden with soup, bread, fruit, and what looked like homemade pasta. But I asked if I could. I wanted to. He paused, something almost uncertain crossing his features. I wanted to see that you were all right. I should have told him to leave. Should have maintained some distance, some control. Instead, I found myself nodding toward the small table by the window. You can put it there. He set the tray down carefully, and I noticed his hands steady when giving orders, holding guns, commanding empires were shaking slightly. I heard you, I said quietly, sitting down across from the food. My stomach growled again, but I couldn't bring myself to eat yet. Outside the door, about the preliminary results. Moretti's jaw tightened. You weren't supposed to hear that. But I did. I met his dark eyes, forcing myself not to look away. You told someone to make them regret it. Everyone who hurt me. What does that mean? He was silent for a long moment, and I could see him choosing his words carefully. Finally, he pulled out the other chair and sat down, close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in his dark irises. It means, he said slowly, that I failed you for 22 years. I failed to protect you, to provide for you, to be what a father should be. And while I can't change that, I can make sure that everyone who took advantage of that failure understands their mistake. You're going to hurt them. It wasn't a question. Yes. No hesitation. No apology. Even my mother's boyfriend? The one who kicked me out? Especially him. His voice dropped to something lethal. He threw my daughter onto the streets. He let you suffer. He watched you walk away with nothing and didn't care if you lived or died. So yes, Sienna, I'm going to hurt him. I should have been horrified, should have argued, pleaded for mercy, proven I was nothing like him. But all I could think about was the way Travis had looked at me the day after my mother's funeral. The cold dismissal in his eyes, the way he'd packed my things in garbage bags and put them on the curb like I was trash. What about those men? I asked instead. The ones from this morning, under the bridge. Moretti's expression went absolutely cold. They're being handled. Handled how? Do you really want to know? He leaned forward slightly, and I could see the ruthlessness in him now, the dangerous core beneath the civilized surface. Do you want me to tell you exactly what I'm going to do to men who thought it was funny to pour ice water on a homeless girl? To my daughter? My breath caught, because the terrifying thing was part of me did want to know. Part of me wanted to hear him describe their punishment, wanted to feel the dark satisfaction of justice, even if it came wrapped in violence. What did that say about me? No, I finally whispered. I don't want to know. Something that might have been relief flickered across his face. Good. You shouldn't have to carry that darkness, Piccola. That's what I'm for, little one. The endearment was so casual, so natural, like he'd been calling me that in his mind for years. Maybe he had. Eat, he said gently, gesturing to the food. Please, you need strength. I picked up the spoon, dipping it into the soup. The first taste exploded on my tongue, rich, homemade, perfect. I hadn't realized how hungry I was until that moment. I couldn't stop myself from eating quickly, desperately, making up for days of near starvation. Moretti watched me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Pride, maybe, and something that looked like grief. Your mother, he said softly when I'd slowed down enough to breathe. Tell me about her. About your life together. I swallowed, the food suddenly feeling heavy in my stomach. Why? Because I missed everything. Every birthday, every milestone, every moment that mattered. I can't get those years back, but I can at least know them, if you're willing to share. There was such naked longing in his voice that I found myself answering before I could think better of it. She was an artist, a painter, not successful, but talented. I stared down at my soup, seeing my mother's face in the reflection. We moved a lot. She said it was for inspiration, but now I think it was because she was scared you'd find us. She was right to be scared. His voice was rough. Not of me hurting her, never that, but of my world touching either of you. I was different then. Younger, more violent, less controlled. She knew what I was building, what it would cost. And now? I looked up at him. Are you less violent now? His smile was dark and didn't reach his eyes. No figlia mia. Now I'm just better at hiding it. The honesty was refreshing and terrifying in equal measure. The doctor will be here soon, he continued after a moment, for the official DNA test. But the preliminary results were run against genetic markers from Catherine's medical records I've kept all these years, hoping I'd need them someday. The probability is 99.97% that you're my biological daughter. So it's real, I whispered. This is really happening. It's real. He reached across the table slowly, giving me time to pull away. When I didn't, his hand covered mine, warm and solid and impossibly gentle. You're my daughter. You're a Moretti. And I know that terrifies you, but I need you to understand something. He squeezed my hand carefully. Every resource I have, every ounce of power I've built, every connection and contact and careful alliance I've made over 23 years, all of it exists for one purpose now. To protect you. To give you the life you should have always had. To make sure you never sleep under another bridge, never go hungry again, never have to be afraid. His dark eyes burned with intensity. You don't have to love me. You don't have to forgive me for the years I wasn't there. But you will be safe, Sienna. Even if you hate me, even if you run, you will always be safe. This I swear. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression hardened. The doctor is here, he said, standing. Are you ready? Was I ready to have science confirm what my heart already knew? To officially become the daughter of a mafia boss? To inherit a legacy of violence and power I never asked for? No, but I nodded anyway. Because ready or not, my old life was already gone. And Dante Moretti was the only family I had left. Dr. Russo was a thin man in his 60s with kind eyes and hands that moved with practiced efficiency. He drew my blood without small talk, professional and discreet in a way that suggested he'd done worse things for the Moretti family than simple paternity tests. Moretti stood by the window the entire time, his back to us, shoulders rigid with tension. He didn't speak, didn't move, just stared out at his manicured gardens like they held answers to questions he hadn't asked yet. All done, Dr. Russo said gently, pressing a cotton ball to the inside of my elbow. Results will be ready by morning, though I suspect we both know what they'll say. He glanced at Moretti's back with something that looked like sympathy. 23 years is a long time to search for someone, Mr. Moretti. I'm glad you finally found her. Moretti's shoulders tensed further, but he said nothing. After the doctor left, silence stretched between us like a living thing. I stayed in my chair, studying the man who claimed to be my father who was my father, according to preliminary science and something deeper I couldn't name. You should rest, he finally said, his voice carefully controlled. It's been a long day. Tomorrow, when we have the official results, we can discuss what happens next. What happens next? I repeated slowly. You mean whether I stay or go? He turned then, and the raw emotion on his face stole my breath. I mean we figure out how to be a family when we're strangers. How to build something from nothing when we've lost everything that should have been. You talk like you lost something. The words came out sharper than I intended. But you chose this. You chose your empire over my mother, over me. I chose to keep you alive. His voice cracked like a whip. I chose to let you have a normal childhood, instead of growing up surrounded by violence and death. I chose to be alone so you could be safe. Don't you dare imply that was easy. And look how well that worked out. I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I still ended up on the streets. Still ended up cold and hungry and alone. At least if you'd been there, I would have had what? A father who kills people? Who runs an empire built on blood and fear? He moved toward me, and I saw the dangerous man again. The one who'd ordered my attackers taken to a warehouse with casual certainty. You want to know what your life would have been like? I'll tell you. He was close now. Too close. His dark eyes burning with intensity. You would have been a target from the moment you were born. Every enemy I've made, and I've made many, would have seen you as leverage, as a weakness to exploit. You would have grown up behind bulletproof glass with bodyguards shadowing your every move. You would have watched people die because they got too close to you. You would have learned to sleep with a gun under your pillow before you learned to read. His voice dropped to something raw and painful. And worst of all, you would have eventually looked at me and seen a monster. Because that's what I am, Sienna. In this world, to survive, to protect what's mine, I have to be a monster. The admission hung between us, brutal and honest. Then why bring me into it now? I whispered. If your world is so dangerous, why not let me go? Give me money and let me disappear like my mother did. Something that looked like agony crossed his face. Because I already lost you once. I lost 22 years of your life, your first words, your first steps, Your first everything. I lost the chance to scare away bad boyfriends and teach you to drive and walk you down the aisle someday. I lost everything that makes a father a father. He reached up, his hand hovering near my face but not quite touching. I can't lose you again. Not now that I've found you. Even if you hate me, even if you never forgive me, I need to know you're safe. I need to see you, talk to you, be part of your life in whatever way you'll allow. Because you're mine, Sienna, my daughter, my blood, and nothing, not my enemies, not common sense, not even you will make me let you go. The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened me, should have sent me running for the door. Instead, it made something in my chest tighten with an emotion I couldn't name. I don't know how to do this, I admitted, my voice breaking. I don't know how to be your daughter. I don't know how to live in this world. I don't even know who I am anymore. Then we'll figure it out together. His hand finally made contact, cupping my cheek with devastating gentleness. Day by day, hour by hour, however long it takes, I should have pulled away, should have maintained distance, protected myself from this dangerous man and his dangerous promises. But I'd been so cold for so long, so alone, so tired of fighting just to survive another day, and his touch felt like coming home to a place I'd never been. I have questions, I said quietly. About my mother, about what happened between you, about why she never told me the truth. I'll answer anything you want to know. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone, the gesture so tender it made my eyes sting. But not tonight. Tonight, you need rest. Real rest. In a real bed, safe and warm. Tomorrow we can talk about the past. And what about my future? The question escaped before I could stop it. If I stay, I'm not saying I will. But if I do, what does that look like? Moretti's expression shifted into something calculating, strategic. You'd have security. Always. At least 2 guards whenever you leave the house. You'd need to learn about my world, the families, the alliances, the enemies, who to trust and who would smile while putting a bullet in your back. He paused, his jaw tightening. You'd also have freedom, money, education if you want it, a life built on more than just survival. But you'd be a Moretti, Sienna. That name carries weight, power, and danger. People will either fear you or try to use you. There's no in-between. That sounds like a prison. It's a cage made of gold and blood, he agreed. But it's the only way I can keep you safe. The only way I can sleep at night knowing you're alive. A knock at the door interrupted us. Moretti dropped his hand and stepped back, the mask of control sliding back into place so smoothly I almost believed I'd imagined his. Vulnerability. Enter. Marco stepped inside, his expression carefully neutral. Sir, we have a situation. It's about the girl's former living situation. We found the boyfriend. I saw Moretti's hands curl into fists. And he's been selling her mother's paintings, the ones she left behind. Made about $40,000 so far. Marco's voice was flat, professional. Kept all of it. Told the buyers they were from an estate sale. My mother's paintings, the only things of value she'd owned, the pieces of her soul she'd poured onto canvas for years. Travis had sold them, profited from her death while I starved on the streets. Sir? Marco prompted. Your orders? Moretti looked at me, and I saw the question in his eyes. This was my choice. My mother. My pain. My revenge, if I wanted it. What would you do to him? I heard myself ask. If I said yes, I'd make him understand what it means to steal from a Moretti. His voice was cold, absolute. I'd make him regret every painting he sold, every dollar he made, every moment he let you suffer. And then I'd make sure he never forgot the lesson. He stepped closer, his dark eyes holding mine. But it's your choice, Figlia Mia. I'll do whatever you want. Nothing. Everything. Or something in between. Just say the word. I thought about my mother, about her gentle hands and quiet strength, about the way she'd loved me fiercely, even when it meant giving up the man she loved to keep me safe. What would she want me to do? But then I thought about sleeping under that bridge, about the cold and hunger and fear, about Travis's face when he threw me out, callous and uncaring, about my mother's paintings, her legacy being sold like garage sale trash. Make him give the money back, I said quietly, and make sure he knows why. Moretti's smile was dark and proud. Consider it done. He nodded to Marco, who left immediately. And as I stood there in my designer clothes in my father's mansion, I realized I'd just ordered my first act of revenge. The cage, it seemed, was already closing around me. And the terrifying part was, I wasn't sure I wanted to escape. I didn't sleep that night. How could I, knowing what was happening somewhere in the city? Knowing that Moretti's men were tracking down Travis, that soon he'd understand exactly what kind of mistake he'd made? I lay in the massive bed, staring at the ceiling, and tried to reconcile the person I'd been yesterday with the person I was becoming. 24 hours ago, I'd been nobody. Invisible. A girl sleeping under a bridge with nothing but a thin blanket and fading hope. Now I was Sienna Moretti, daughter of the most dangerous man in Chicago, a woman who'd ordered retribution with a single sentence. The thought should have horrified me. Instead, I felt powerful, and that terrified me more than anything else. Around 3 a.m, I gave up on sleep and pulled on a robe I'd found in the closet. Silk, of course, because apparently everything in this house was expensive and perfect. I opened my door carefully, half expecting to find guards stationed outside. The hallway was empty, quiet. I wandered through the mansion like a ghost, my bare feet silent on marble floors. Everything was elegant, tasteful, clearly designed by someone with impeccable and expensive taste. Oil paintings lined the walls, sculptures occupied alcoves. Every piece probably worth more than most people made in a lifetime. This was my inheritance. My birthright. I found myself in what looked like a study. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive mahogany desk, leather chairs positioned near a fireplace that still held dying embers. The room smelled like expensive whiskey and old books. It smelled like him. I shouldn't have entered. This was clearly Moretti's private space. But something drew me in curiosity, maybe, or the need to understand the man who claimed me as his daughter. The desk was neat, organized. A laptop sat closed in the center. Papers were stacked in precise piles. But what caught my attention was the wall behind the desk. Photographs, dozens of them, pinned to a large board like some kind of investigation. I moved closer, my heart hammering. They were pictures of my mother, young, beautiful, smiling in ways I'd rarely seen in my childhood, with Moretti younger too, less hardened, looking at her like she was his entire world. There were images of them together at restaurants, walking through parks, tangled in each other's arms. They'd been in love, really truly in love. But it was the other section of the board that made my breath catch. Pictures of me. Hundreds of them. School photos that I didn't remember having taken. Candid shots of me walking to school, at the park, sitting in libraries. Images spanning years. From childhood through my teenage years into adulthood. He'd been watching me. All those years my mother thought we were hidden. He'd had people tracking us, photographing us, following our lives from a distance. I never stopped looking. I spun around to find Moretti in the doorway, still dressed in his clothes from earlier. His dark eyes were shadowed with exhaustion and something that looked like shame. "You were watching us," I said, my voice shaking. "All those years. You knew where we were." "Not always." He stepped into the room slowly, like approaching a skittish animal. "For the first 8 years I had nothing. Catherine was too good at hiding. But when you were 9, one of my men caught a glimpse of someone who looked like her in Denver. By the time we confirmed it was really her, you'd moved again." He gestured to the wall. "After that, I managed to keep loose tabs. Never close enough to approach. I'd promised Catherine I wouldn't, unless it was absolutely necessary, but close enough to know you were alive. To see you grow, to watch you become," his voice roughened, "to watch you become the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Smart and kind and strong, despite everything." I stared at the photographs, feeling violated and somehow understood all at once. "This is insane. You do understand that, right? This is stalker behavior. Yes, no hesitation, no apology. I'm aware. I'm also aware that I don't care. You were mine, and I needed to know you were safe, even from a distance. Even if you never knew I existed. Did my mother know? That you were having us followed?" Something painful crossed his face. "No. She would have run farther if she'd known. I couldn't risk losing you again." I turned back to the wall, studying the progression of images. There was one of me at maybe 14, laughing at something. Another at 16, looking serious with a book. One from last year, walking down a street I recognized, near our last apartment. "You have pictures from right before she died," I said quietly. "Why didn't you come then? Why didn't you help us?" "Because I didn't know she was sick." His voice was raw with regret. "My man was supposed to check in weekly, but he missed a report. Then another. By the time I realized something was wrong and sent someone else, Catherine was already gone, and you disappeared. It took me 3 months to find you again. 3 months. The exact amount of time I'd been on the streets. If he'd reported on time, Moretti's hands clenched into fists. If I'd known she was dying, I would have been there. I would have paid for treatment, the best doctors, anything. I would have given her anything to stay alive. For you. The anguish in his voice was so genuine that I felt my anger softening despite myself. The man who missed the reports, I said slowly. What happened to him? Moretti's expression went cold. He's no longer a concern. Which meant he was dead. Killed for failing to report that my mother was sick. I should have been horrified. Should have argued that his death wasn't justified. But all I could think was my mother had died in pain, barely able to afford medication, while this man would have moved heaven and earth to save her if he'd only known. There's something else you should know. Moretti moved to his desk, unlocking a drawer. He pulled out a thick folder and handed it to me. Your mother's medical records. I had them pulled after I found out about her death. I opened the folder with trembling hands. Cancer. Stage 4. Diagnosed 16 months before she died. But it was the notation at the bottom of one page that made my stomach drop. Patient refused treatment. When asked about medical power of attorney or family to notify, patient stated she had no one, requested no extraordinary measures. She knew she was dying, I whispered. She knew, and she never told me. She was protecting you. Moretti's voice was soft. She knew that if she told you how bad it was, you'd try to find help. You'd start asking questions about family, about resources, questions that might have led you to me. She'd rather die than let me find you. The words hung in the air, brutal and true. She was wrong. Moretti's voice turned hard. She was wrong to keep you from me. Wrong to let pride and fear keep our family broken. Wrong to die alone when she could have. He stopped, his jaw clenching. I'm angry at her, Sienna. I know I shouldn't be. I know she did what she thought was right. But I'm so goddamn angry that she chose this. That she robbed us of time we could have had together. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw my own complicated feelings reflected back. Grief, and anger, and love, all tangled together, until they were indistinguishable. I'm angry too, I admitted. At her, at you, at everything. She made me think I had no one, that I was completely alone in the world. And you. I gestured at the wall of photographs. You watched me suffer and did nothing. I know. He moved closer, and this time I didn't step back. I know, and I'm sorry. But I'm here now, and I swear to you, on everything I have and everything I am, you'll never be alone again. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression shifted into something dark and satisfied. Travis has been found, he said quietly. Marco is bringing him to one of our properties. The paintings have been recovered, all of them. My heart started racing. When? Now. If you want to see him to face him, I can take you there. His dark eyes held mine. But you need to understand what you'll be walking into. What you'll see. My world isn't pretty, Sienna. It's not clean or moral or just. It's brutal and violent and dark. He paused. If you come with me tonight, there's no going back. You'll see exactly what it means to be a Moretti, what I do to people who hurt what's mine, and you'll have to decide if you can live with that. If you can live with me. It was a test. I understood that. He was showing me the monster, giving me a chance to run before I was in too deep. But I thought about my mother's paintings. About Travis, throwing me out like garbage. About 3 months of cold and hunger and fear. About the fact that Moretti had been searching for me for 23 years while I'd been alone and lost and thinking I had no one. Take me, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I want to see him. I want him to know exactly who he threw away. Moretti's smile was proud and dangerous and heartbreaking all at once. Get dressed, he said. Wear something that makes you feel powerful. Because tonight, figlia mia, you become who you were always meant to be. A Moretti. For better or worse, I chose black. Black jeans that fit like they were made for me. A black silk blouse that whispered against my skin. Black boots with a heel high enough to make me feel tall, powerful, dangerous. I barely recognized the woman staring back at me from the mirror. My dark hair, still damp from a quick shower, fell in waves around my face. My eyes, the same shade as Moretti's, looked different somehow. Harder, more, determined. The scared girl from under the bridge was gone, replaced by someone I didn't quite know yet. Someone who was about to watch her father destroy a man. And the most terrifying part? I wanted to see it. Moretti was waiting at the bottom of the stairs, flanked by Marco and 2 other men I didn't recognize. He'd changed too into all black, like me, like we were going to war. Maybe we were. His eyes swept over me, and something fierce and proud flickered across his face. You look like a Moretti. I don't know if that's a compliment. It's the highest compliment I can give. He offered his arm, the gesture strangely formal given where we were going. Last chance to change your mind. We can go back upstairs. You never have to see this part of my world. I looked at his extended arm, at the expensive watch on his wrist, at the scars on his knuckles that told stories of violence I was only beginning to understand. Then I took his arm. Let's go. The drive was silent. I sat, beside Moretti in the back of the SUV, watching the city lights blur past. We were heading away from the nice neighborhoods, toward areas I recognized from my time on the streets. Industrial zones, abandoned warehouses, places where screams wouldn't be heard. What are you going to do to him? I finally asked. Moretti didn't look at me, his gaze fixed on the window. What would you like me to do? I don't know. And that was the truth. Part of me wanted Travis to hurt the way I'd hurt, wanted him to feel cold and scared and abandoned. But another part, the part that still remembered who I used to be, recoiled from that darkness. Then I'll make that decision for you. His hand found mine in the darkness, lacing our fingers together. You don't have to carry this, Sienna. That's what I'm for. I'll be the monster so you don't have to be. But what if I want to be? The words escaped before I could stop them. What if I like feeling powerful instead of powerless? He turned to me. Then, and in the dim light of the car, his expression was unreadable. Then you're more my daughter than I dared hope. But power comes with a price, Piccola. Make sure you're willing to pay it before you embrace it fully. The car stopped in front of a warehouse that looked abandoned from the outside. But I could see the subtle signs of occupancy, security cameras, new locks on old doors, the faint glow of lights from inside. Marco opened our door. Moretti stepped out first, then helped me down with a gentleness that seemed at odds with where we were and what was about to happen. Stay close to me, he murmured. Don't speak unless I tell you to. And remember you're safe, always, no matter what you see. He led me inside. The warehouse was mostly empty, just concrete floors and metal beams and shadows that seemed to breathe. But in the center, illuminated by a single hanging light, was Travis. He was tied to a chair, his face already showing signs of Marco's handiwork: split lip, black eye, blood trailing from his nose. But he was conscious, alert, and when he saw me walk in beside Moretti, his eyes went wide with recognition, and then something that looked like fear. Sienna? His voice was hoarse. What the fuck is going on? Who are these people? Moretti's hand tightened on my arm, steadying me. Do you know who I am? He asked Travis, his voice echoing in the empty space. No, man. I don't know anything. This is crazy. You can't just... My name is Dante Moretti. He said it with the same casual certainty he'd said it to me. Like it should mean something. Like it should make grown men tremble. And it did. I watched Travis's face go white. Oh God. Oh fuck. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know she was... Wasn't what? Moretti's voice was silk over steel. You didn't know she was mine? Didn't know she had family who would care that you threw her onto the streets like garbage? Didn't know there would be consequences for stealing from the dead? He moved, closer to Travis. And I followed, unable to look away. You see, I'm a father. Finally, after 23 years of searching, I found my daughter. And do you know where I found her, Mr. Hammond? Travis was shaking now, full body tremors. I don't... Sleeping under a bridge. Moretti's voice never rose above conversational, which somehow made it more terrifying. Soaking wet because 3 pieces of shit thought it would be funny to pour ice water on a homeless girl. My daughter was cold, hungry, and alone. Because of you. I didn't know she was homeless. I thought she'd figure something out. She's smart, The slap came so fast I almost missed it. Moretti's hand cracked across Travis's face with enough force to snap his head to the side. Don't. The word was barely a whisper. Don't you dare make excuses. You knew exactly what you were doing when you threw a 22-year-old girl out with nothing. You knew. And you didn't care. He gestured to Marco, who stepped forward, with a canvas bag. One by one, he pulled out my mother's paintings. All of them. Some I recognized, others I'd never seen. beautiful pieces that captured her soul in oil and canvas. You sold these, Moretti continued. Made $40,000. Money that should have gone to her daughter. Money that could have kept Sienna off the streets. Travis was crying now, sloppy and desperate. I'm sorry. I'll give it back. I'll give you everything. Just please. Look at her. Moretti's command cut through Travis's pleas. Look at what you threw away. Travis's eyes found mine, and I saw him really see me for the first time, not as the inconvenient girl he could discard, as something dangerous, something protected, something that could destroy him. I'm sorry, Sienna, he whimpered. I'm so sorry. I was grieving too, and I made a mistake. You should have cared. My voice was steady, cold. Nothing like the girl he'd known. You should have seen that I was suffering and done something. Anything. But you didn't. You looked at me the day after my mother died and felt nothing. I moved closer, and he actually tried to shrink back in his chair. I was so scared, I continued. So alone. I didn't eat for days. I didn't sleep without waking up terrified someone would hurt me. I thought about dying, Travis. About just walking into traffic and ending it, because I couldn't take one more day of being cold and invisible and worthless. My voice finally cracked, and I felt Moretti's hand on my shoulder, grounding me. I survived, I said quietly. Despite you. Despite everything. I survived, and now you're going to understand what that felt like. I looked up at Moretti. The money. I want every cent returned, and I want him to feel what it's like to have nothing, to be thrown away like he doesn't matter. Moretti's smile was terrifying and beautiful. Consider it done. Marco? Already arranged, sir. His accounts have been frozen. His apartment has been cleared. Out. His car has been repossessed. As of tonight, Mr. Hammond has nothing but the clothes on his back. No, Travis gasped. You can't. I have bills. You have nothing, Moretti said simply. Just like you left my daughter with nothing. The difference is, she had the strength to survive it. Let's see if you do. He nodded to his men, and they began untying Travis from the chair. You're letting me go? Travis asked, confusion mixing with his fear. I'm throwing you away, Moretti corrected. The same way you threw away my daughter. You have 48 hours to leave Chicago. If I see you after that, if I hear you've tried to contact Sienna or cause any trouble at all, I'll bring you back here. And next time, you won't leave alive. Do you understand? Travis nodded frantically, still crying. Good. Marco will give you the address of a shelter. What you do from there is your problem. Just like Sienna was supposed to be her problem when you abandoned her. They dragged Travis toward the door, and I watched him go with a mixture of satisfaction and something that felt uncomfortably like emptiness. This was supposed to feel good. This was justice. Revenge. So why did I just feel hollow? It's not enough, I whispered when Travis was gone. He gets to walk away. He gets to live. But he loses everything. Moretti turned me to face him, his hands gentle on my shoulders. His money, his home, his security, everything that made him feel safe. He'll spend every day looking over his shoulder, wondering if I've changed my mind. That's a different kind of death, figlia mia, a slower one. You could have killed him. Why didn't you? His dark eyes held mine, and I saw the truth in them before he spoke. Because you're not ready for that yet. Because despite everything, you still have light in you. Goodness. And I won't be the one to extinguish it, no matter how much I want to. He pulled me close, and I let myself collapse against his chest, breathing in his scent, feeling his strength surrounding me. But if he ever comes back, Moretti murmured into my hair, if he ever threatens you or makes you feel unsafe again, I'll kill him myself, slowly, and I'll make sure he knows exactly why. I should have been frightened by the promise in his voice. Instead, I felt safe, and that's when I knew I was already lost to the darkness. Already becoming a Moretti in more than just name. The official DNA results came back the next morning. 99.99% probability of paternity. I stared at the document in my hands, at the clinical proof of what my heart had already accepted, and felt something inside me shift. There was no going back now. No more uncertainty. No more wondering if this was all some elaborate mistake. Dante Moretti was my father, and I was his daughter in every way that mattered: blood, bone, and the darkness that seemed to be seeping into my soul with every passing hour. How do you feel? He asked from across his study. We were alone for The first time since returning from the warehouse last night. He'd given me space, let me process what I'd witnessed, what I'd participated in, what I'd enjoyed, if I was being honest with myself. I don't know, I admitted, setting the paper down. Everything feels different. Like I'm different. Like I woke up yesterday as one person, and now I'm becoming someone else entirely. That's because you are. He moved to the window, his posture tense. The moment you walked into my world, the moment you chose to come to that warehouse, you started transforming. It's inevitable. Into what? A monster like you? The words were meant to hurt, but he just smiled, sad and knowing. Into yourself, your true self. The person you would have been if Catherine hadn't spent 22 years trying to make you soft and safe and normal. He turned to face me. You have my blood, Sienna, my instincts, my capacity for violence and control and absolute ruthlessness when necessary. She tried to suppress. It tried to raise you to be something gentler. But it was always there, waiting. You're wrong. But my voice lacked conviction. I'm not violent. I'm not. You ordered revenge on Travis without hesitation. You watched him cry and beg and you felt satisfaction. Power. His dark eyes held mine. Don't lie to yourself about what you are. It's the first step toward becoming weak. I wanted to argue, wanted to prove him wrong. But he was right, and we both knew it. What happens now? I asked instead. With the test results confirmed. With me officially being a Moretti, what changes? Everything. He pulled out his phone, typing something quickly. By tonight, every major family in Chicago will know I have a daughter, that I've found you, that you're under my protection. Is that supposed to make me feel safe? It's supposed to make you untouchable. He looked up, but it also makes you a target. There are people who've been waiting years for me to show weakness. You're that. Weakness, Sienna. The one thing in this world I'd destroy everything to protect. Before I could respond, the study door opened. A woman walked in mid-40s, elegant in a charcoal suit, with sharp green eyes that assessed me in a single glance. Sienna, this is Isabella Romano, Moretti said. She'll be teaching you. Teaching me what? Isabella's smile was cold and professional. How to survive in this world. How to carry yourself. How to speak. How to navigate the social dynamics of the families. How to be a Moretti without getting yourself killed in the first month. She moved closer, circling me like a predator evaluating prey. You have good bone structure. The right last name. Your father's eyes. She paused. But you move like a victim. Speak like you're apologizing for existing. That ends today. I don't need. You do. Moretti's voice was firm. In 3 days, there's a gathering. All the major families will be there. They'll want to see you, evaluate you, determine if you're a threat or an opportunity. You need to be ready. 3 days? That's not enough time to. It will have to be. Isabella's tone left no room for argument. We start now. First lesson. Posture. You're the daughter of the most powerful man in Chicago. Act like it. The next 72 hours were a blur. Isabella was relentless. She taught me how to walk, chin up, shoulders back, moving through space like I owned it. How to speak confident, measured, never apologizing or qualifying my statements. How to dress clothes that were elegant but armor-like, projecting power without trying too hard. She taught me about the families. The Russos, who controlled the docks. The Castellanos, who ran most of the city's legitimate businesses as fronts. The Giordanos, who everyone suspected were planning a move against Moretti's territory but no one could prove. They'll all be watching you, Isabella said on the second day, correcting my posture for the 100th time. Looking for weakness. Testing to see if you're really Dante's daughter or just some girl he's claimed for strategic reasons. And how do I prove I'm really his daughter? You show them his fire. She met my eyes. You show them that beneath that soft exterior, you're just as dangerous as he is. That you're not someone to be underestimated or dismissed. But I'm not dangerous. I'm just. You ordered a man's destruction without blinking, Isabella interrupted. You watched him beg and felt nothing but satisfaction. You're more dangerous than you know, Sienna. You just need to believe it. At night, after Isabella left and the house grew quiet, Moretti would find me, sometimes in the library, sometimes in the garden, once on the terrace overlooking the city lights. He never pushed, never demanded, just sat with me in comfortable silence, his presence both reassuring and overwhelming. Are you having second thoughts? He asked one night, when we were watching the city from his study. Every single moment, I admitted. But I'm still here. Why? I turned to look at him, this dangerous man who was my father, who'd searched for me for decades, who'd given me everything and asked for nothing in return. Because I have nowhere else to go. Because you're the only family I have left. Because... I swallowed hard. Because when I'm with you, I don't feel lost anymore. I feel like I belong somewhere, even if that somewhere is terrifying. Something raw and vulnerable crossed his face. You do belong. Here. With me. You always have. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away. When I didn't, his hand cupped my face with that devastating gentleness that seemed so at odds with everything else he was. I know I'm asking you to become something you weren't raised to be, he said quietly. I know this world is dark and violent and wrong by every moral standard you've been taught. But it's our world, Sienna. Yours and mine. Our blood. Our legacy. What if I can't do it? What if I'm not strong enough? You're already stronger than you know. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone. You survived 3 months on the streets. You survived losing your mother. You survived being completely alone in a world that didn't care if you lived or died. That takes a strength most people never find. That's different than this. Than becoming someone who can order violence and feel nothing. Is it? His dark eyes held mine. You think survival isn't violent? You think the instinct to protect yourself, to claim what's yours, to destroy threats before they destroy you. You think that's not exactly what I do? Just on a larger scale? I didn't have an answer. Because he was right. I'd been surviving through violence my entire life. Small violences, the violence of poverty, of neglect, of a world that looked at struggling people and turned away. Now I just had the power to fight back. The question was whether I wanted to. The gathering is tomorrow night, Moretti said, his hand dropping away. After that, there's no hiding. Everyone will know about you. There will be threats, attempts to use you against me, maybe even direct attacks if someone's stupid enough. He paused. This is your last chance to walk away, Sienna. I'll give you money, set you up somewhere safe, somewhere far from Chicago. You can start over, be whoever you want to be. No one will bother you as long as you stay away. You'd let me go? Just like that? Pain flickered across his features. I'd hate every second of it. It would kill me. But I'd do it if it meant you were safe. If it meant you got to keep that light inside you instead of letting this world snuff it out. I studied him, this complicated man who'd been a stranger days ago and was now the center of my universe. Who'd kill for me without hesitation but would let me go if I asked. Who was offering me freedom even though it clearly destroyed him to do so. I'm not going anywhere, I heard myself say. The words felt final, inevitable. I'm staying. I'm going to that gathering. I'm going to be a Moretti. Even knowing what that means, what you'll become, I thought about Travis's face when he realized who I was. About the power I'd felt watching him understand his mistake. About how right it had felt to have someone protecting me, claiming me, treating me like I mattered. Especially knowing what it means. Moretti's smile was fierce and proud and heartbreaking. He pulled me into his arms, holding me tight against his chest. Then tomorrow, he murmured into my hair, we show them all exactly who you are. And God help anyone who tries to hurt you, because I'll burn this entire city down before I let anything happen to my daughter. I closed my eyes, breathing him in, feeling safe and terrified all at once. Tomorrow, I'd step fully into the darkness. Tomorrow, Sienna Walsh would disappear completely, and Sienna Moretti would be born. The dress Isabella chose was a statement in itself. Midnight, blue silk, that hugged every curve before flowing to the floor. Off-shoulder, elegant, sophisticated. It made my skin glow and my dark eyes look almost black. Diamond earrings, real diamonds. Moretti had assured me caught the light with every movement. My hair was swept up in a style that was both classic and modern, exposing the graceful line of my neck. I looked like money, power, danger wrapped in beauty. I looked like a Moretti. Perfect, Isabella said, circling me one last time. You look like you were born to this. Like you've been ruling this city your entire life. I was sleeping under a bridge 4 days ago, I reminded her, trying to calm my racing heart. And tonight you're the daughter of the most powerful man in Chicago. The past doesn't matter, only what you project right now. She adjusted one of my earrings. Remember everything I taught you. Chin up. Make eye contact. Never apologize. Never explain. You're a Moretti. You don't need their approval. They need Absa's. Yours. A knock at the door made us both turn. Moretti entered, and the breath left my lungs. He was devastating in a black tuxedo that was clearly custom-made, fitting him like a second skin. His dark hair was swept back, his jaw sharp, his presence commanding. But it was his eyes that held me, those dark eyes we shared, looking at me with an intensity that made my skin flush. "Bellissima," he breathed, and I heard genuine awe in his voice. "You look like your mother, but stronger. More dangerous." "Is that a compliment?" "It's the truth." He moved closer, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "I have something for you, something that belonged to Catherine." My heart clenched. He opened the box to reveal a delicate gold necklace with a small pendant, a lion, rendered in intricate detail with tiny diamonds for eyes. "I gave this to her when we first fell in love," he said quietly. "The Moretti family crest. She wore it every day until she left. I've kept it safe, hoping someday I'd have a daughter to give it to." His hands were gentle as he fastened it around my neck. The metal was warm against my skin, and the weight of it felt significant. "Final. Now everyone will know you're mine," he murmured. "My daughter, my blood, my heir." The word came out strangled. "You're my only child, Sienna. Everything I've built, this empire, this power, this family, it's yours, whether you want it or not." Before I could process that revelation, Marco appeared in the doorway. "Sir, the cars are ready. We should leave now to arrive on time." Moretti offered me his arm, and I took it, feeling the solid strength of him grounding me. As we walked through the mansion toward the waiting cars, I caught glimpses of myself in mirrors and windows. I barely recognized the woman staring back. "There will be 5 families represented tonight," Moretti said as we settled into the car. "The Russos are our closest allies. Antonio Russo and I built our empires together. You can trust him. His son, Luca, is young, ambitious. He'll likely try to charm you. Be polite but distant. And the others? The Castellanos are neutral. They'll watch and wait, see which way the wind blows. The Giordanos are problematic. They've been testing boundaries lately, seeing if they can take territory. Old man Giordano is smart enough to be cautious, but his grandson Marcus is a hothead. His hand found mine in the darkness. The D'Angelos run protection and gambling. They're loyal as long as it profits them. And the Santoros?" He paused. "Victoria Santoro is the only female head of a crime family in Chicago. She'll either respect you or see you as competition. Watch her carefully." "You're saying everyone there might want to hurt me." "I'm saying everyone there will be evaluating you, looking for advantage, trying to determine if you're an asset or a liability to their interests." His grip tightened. "But I'll be beside you the entire night. No one will touch you. No one will disrespect you. I'll make sure of that." The venue was a private estate on the outskirts of the city, massive, elegant, dripping with old money and older secrets. Security was everywhere, though they tried to be discreet about it. As we stepped out of the car, I felt the weight of dozens of eyes on me. People were watching, whispering, trying to catch a glimpse of Dante Moretti's mysterious daughter. "Remember," he murmured, tucking my hand into the crook of his arm. "You're a Moretti. Act like it." We walked into the ballroom together, and the effect was immediate. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. The entire room seemed to hold its breath as Dante Moretti entered with a beautiful young woman wearing his family crest. "Ladies and gentlemen," someone announced, though it was unnecessary. Everyone was already staring. Dante Moretti and his daughter, Sienna Moretti. His daughter. The words echoed through the room like a bomb detonating. An older man approached, first distinguished, with silver hair and sharp eyes. "Antonio Russo," I realized from Moretti's descriptions. "Dante," he said warmly, though his gaze was fixed on me. "So the rumors are true. You found her." "I did," pride saturated Moretti's voice. "Antonio, may I present my daughter Sienna?" "Sienna, this is Antonio Russo, my oldest friend and ally." "Miss Moretti." Antonio took my hand, but instead of shaking it, he bowed slightly over it in an old-world gesture. "A pleasure. Your father has spoken of little else for 23 years. I'm glad he finally found what he was searching for. Thank you, Mr. Russo." My voice was steady, confident. Isabella would have been proud. "Please call me Antonio. We're practically family." His smile was genuine, but I saw him assessing me, measuring my worth. "You have your father's eyes, and I suspect, his spirit." A younger man appeared at Antonio's side, mid-20s, handsome in that polished, dangerous way. And I'm Luca. Russo. It's an honor to finally meet the legendary Sienna Moretti. He took my hand before I could react, bringing it to his lips. His eyes held mine a moment too long, a clear challenge to Moretti's authority. Luca. Moretti's voice carried a warning. My daughter is not one of your conquests. Of course not. Luca released my hand with a smile that was all charm and calculation. I was merely being welcoming. Other families approached in succession. Elena Castellano, cold and evaluating. Marcus Giordano, whose eyes lingered on me in a way that made my skin crawl. Thomas D'Angelo, jovial and false. And then Victoria Santoro. She was stunning, late 30s, dark hair, dressed in red like she was going to war. When her eyes met mine, I felt the assessment immediately. Woman to woman, predator to predator. So, this is the daughter, she said, her voice smooth as silk over steel. I heard you were found sleeping under a bridge. Quite the Cinderella story. The insult was subtle but clear. Moretti's hand tightened on my arm, and I felt his anger rising. But I remembered Isabella's words. You're a Moretti. Act like it. And I heard you married into your position, I replied, my voice equally smooth. While I was born into mine. Quite a different story entirely. Silence descended. Victoria's eyes widened fractionally, and I saw surprise flash across her features before her expression hardened. Then Antonio laughed a genuine, delighted sound. She has your fire, Dante. God help us all. Even Moretti was smiling, though his eyes never left Victoria. My daughter is under my protection, Victoria. I trust we understand each other. Perfectly. Victoria's smile was sharp as a knife. Welcome to the family business, Sienna. I suspect it will be. Interesting having you around. She walked away, and I felt Moretti relax slightly beside me. Well done, he murmured. You just made an enemy and earned respect in the same moment. Very Moretti of you. I didn't mean to. Yes, you did. His voice held approval. You saw an attack and you defended yourself. That's exactly what you should do. Never back down, Sienna. Not from anyone. The evening continued in a blur of introductions and careful conversations. Every word felt weighted with meaning. Every glance held calculation. I was being evaluated, tested, measured against some invisible standard I didn't fully understand. But I held my own, channeled Isabella's lessons, kept my chin up and my voice steady and my expression carefully neutral, until Marcus Giordano cornered me near the bar. Moretti had stepped away briefly to speak with Antonio, and suddenly Marcus was too close, his breath smelling of whiskey and entitlement. So, he said, his eyes traveling over me in a way that made my skin crawl. Sleeping your way into the Moretti family. Smart play. I froze, shock and rage warring inside me. Excuse me? Come on. He leaned closer, and I could see the cruelty in his eyes. No one just appears as someone's daughter after 22 years. What's the real story? You blackmailing him? Threatening to expose something? Or are you just really good at... He never finished the sentence. Moretti's hand closed around Marcus's throat, slamming him back against the bar with enough force to rattle glasses. The entire room went silent. What? Moretti said, his voice deadly calm. Did you just say to my daughter? Marcus's face was turning red, his hands clawing at Moretti's grip. You just implied that my daughter, my blood, is a whore. Each word was precise, controlled, terrifying in its calmness. Is that correct? Dante. Antonio appeared, his voice urgent. Not here. Not now. But Moretti wasn't listening. His eyes were fixed on Marcus with murderous intent. Apologize, he said quietly. Apologize to her right now, or I'll kill you in front of everyone here and let your grandfather explain to his associates why his idiot grandson couldn't. Keep his mouth shut. Marcus gasped for air, his face purple, eyes bulging with terror. The entire ballroom was frozen, everyone watching this display of raw power and protective fury. I'm sorry, Marcus choked out. I'm sorry, Miss Moretti. I was wrong. Please. Moretti released him with a shove that sent Marcus stumbling backward. He turned to me, and the rage in his eyes softened instantly when they met mine. Are you all right? His voice was gentle now, concerned, like he hadn't just nearly killed someone in front of Chicago's most powerful families. I should have been horrified, should have been embarrassed by the scene, by the violence, by the attention now fixed on us. Instead, I felt something else entirely. Protected, claimed, powerful. I'm fine, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Moretti turned back to the room, his arm sliding around my waist in a gesture that was both protective and possessive. Let me be absolutely clear. My daughter is off limits. Anyone who disrespects her, threatens her, or even looks at her wrong, will answer to me personally, and we all know what that means. The threat hung in the air, heavy and absolute. Old man Giordano stepped forward, his face tight with fury and humiliation. Dante, my grandson, was out of line, but this was mercy, Moretti interrupted, his voice like ice. Be grateful I didn't kill him. The next person who insults Sienna won't be so fortunate. He looked around the room, making eye contact with each family head. She is mine, she is a Moretti, and she is under my absolute protection. Anyone who forgets that will learn a lesson they won't survive. Then, without waiting for a response, he guided me toward the exit. Marco and the other guards fell into formation around us as we walked out of the ballroom, leaving stunned silence in our wake. I didn't speak until we were in the car, pulling away from the estate. Then I started laughing, a slightly hysterical sound that I couldn't quite control. I just watched you nearly murder someone at a formal gathering, I said between laughs. You almost killed him for insulting me. I should have killed him. Moretti's voice was still edged with anger. I wanted to. The only reason he's alive is because starting a war tonight would have put you in more danger. You would have started a war? Over words? He turned to me, and the intensity in his dark eyes stole my breath. I would burn this entire city down for you, Sienna. I would destroy every family, every alliance, every carefully built connection I have, if it meant keeping you safe. Words, violence, disrespect toward you, none of it will be tolerated. Ever. The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened me, should have made me want to run. Instead, I leaned closer, drawn by something I didn't fully understand. You're insane. You know that, right? This is insane. Yes. His hand came up to cup my face, thumb brushing across my cheekbone in that gesture. That was becoming familiar. Addictive. But you're mine, and I protect what's mine with everything I have. The air between us felt charged, electric. We were too close. This was wrong. He was my father. But in that moment, looking into eyes that mirrored my own, feeling the heat of his body and the intensity of his focus, I didn't feel like his daughter. I felt like something else entirely. Dante, I whispered, and the sound of his name on my lips felt dangerous. Forbidden. He went completely still, his breath catching. Don't, he said roughly. Don't look at me like that, Piccola. Don't. Like what? I didn't pull away. Couldn't pull away. Like I'm not your father. His voice was strained, tortured. Like I'm just a man. Like we're not bound by blood and biology and every moral law that exists. But you don't feel like my father. I admitted, the words escaping before I could stop them. You feel like something else. Something more. Something that scares me and draws me in. All at once. Sienna. My name was a warning and a plea. You don't know what you're saying. This is gratitude. Or trauma bonding. Or maybe it's just the truth. I reached up, my hand covering his where it still cupped my face. Maybe I'm just as twisted as you are. Maybe your darkness recognized mine from the very beginning. We can't. But he didn't move away. Didn't drop his hand. This is wrong. I'm your father. I'm supposed to protect you. Not what? I challenged. Not want me? Not feel this? Whatever this is between us? The car stopped. We'd arrived back at the mansion, but neither of us moved. We just sat there in the darkness, breathing the same air, caught in something that felt inevitable and impossible all at once. I've wanted you since the moment I found you, he finally admitted, his voice raw with guilt and desire. Not as a father wants a daughter, as a man wants a woman. And I hate myself for it. I've spent 4 days trying to bury it, trying to convince myself it's just relief at finding you, gratitude that you're alive. But it's not. It's more. It's everything. His confession should have disgusted me, should have sent me running from the car and never looking back. Instead, I felt validation, confirmation of what I'd been feeling but couldn't name. We're not really father and daughter, I whispered. Not in any way that matters. You didn't raise me, didn't know me. We're just two people who share DNA and happen to find each other. That's a justification. A lie we'd tell ourselves to make this acceptable. But his thumb was still stroking my cheek, his eyes still burning into mine with unmistakable hunger. Then lie to me, I breathed. Tell me this is wrong while you look at me like you want to devour me. Tell me you're my father while you touch me like I'm anything but your daughter. The sound he made was tortured. Then, his other hand was in my hair, tilting my head back, and his mouth was hovering a breath away from mine. This is insane, he murmured against my lips. This is wrong. This will destroy us both. I know. I closed the distance between us. Kiss me anyway. He did. The kiss was explosive. Weeks of tension, years of separation, lifetimes of searching, finally culminating in this moment. His mouth claimed mine with a desperation that matched my own, all pretense of familial affection shattering completely. This wasn't a father kissing his daughter. This was a man starved for connection, finding it in the most forbidden place possible. I kissed him back with equal fervor, my hands fisting in his jacket, pulling him closer. He tasted like expensive whiskey and danger and home all at once. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, the reality of what we'd just done crashed down between us. We can't do this, Moretti said, but his arms were still around me, his forehead pressed against mine. We can't, Sienna. This is everything, I finished. This is everything, and I don't care if it's wrong. I don't care about blood or biology or what anyone would think. I care about this. About you. About the way you make me feel like I finally belong somewhere. You'll hate me for this. His voice was thick with emotion. Someday, you'll realize what I've done, taken advantage of your vulnerability, your need for family, your... Stop. I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. I'm not a child, Dante. I'm not some innocent victim you've corrupted. I want this. I want you. However wrong it is, whatever it makes us, I want it anyway. He stared at me for a long moment, and I saw the war raging behind his eyes. Duty versus desire, protection versus possession. Everything he was supposed to be versus everything he wanted to be. Finally, he made his decision. Then come inside, he said roughly, his hand finding mine. Come inside, and let me show you exactly what it means to be mine. Not as my daughter, but as my everything. I should have said no, should have. Walked away while I still could. But I'd been cold and alone, and lost for too long, and he was warmth and safety and belonging wrapped in the most dangerous package imaginable. So I took his hand, and I let him lead me into the darkness. Because some kinds of salvation only come through surrender, and some kinds of love only exist in the shadows.